everybody, and welcome back to Tailgating with WOTC. I'm Joe, and I'm here with my co-host, Mark.
How you doing, everybody?
Today, we're serving up some food for thought on core set spoilers. Recently, we've been getting some really awesome spoilers coming out of core set 21. So far has been one of the coolest core sets that I have seen, at least since I've been playing Magic. And a lot of the spoilers that have been coming out are definitely worth talking about. So we're going to talk about a few of them here and our thoughts on each one of them. Starting off with today, the day of recording, Scavenging Ooze was just spoiled, as well as a lot of other cards that have come out in the days beforehand. But so far, this set seems really awesome with the power value that you're getting in some of these reprints, as well as some of the really interesting new cards that they're coming out with. So, Mark, why don't you go ahead and pick out one of the cards that you've gotten excited about?
Well, I think the one that a lot of people are excited about is Miscast, because everyone's saying that it's just an upgraded Dispel. You know, everyone's starting to think like, oh, this could be really, influential in Modern. Personally, my favorite card of the set so far that's been spoiled is a common, which is a little bit contrary to what everyone else would think, but it's Village Rites, because as a big Mardu Pyromancer player, it's probably my favorite deck type.
Oh, yeah.
It certainly has some implications with, it's going to give you a cast trigger, so as long as you have something that you're willing to sacrifice, whether it be an elemental or, in my version of the deck, Kroxa, you play Kroxa on turn 3, usually turn 2, but if you play in turn 3, supposedly, you're going to get that discard trigger and that bolt, essentially. But if you're going to sacrifice Kroxa anyway, if you pay it for 2 mana, then you sacrifice it for free. So on turn 3, getting the value of target player discards a card, they could possibly get bolted, and then you draw 2. Pretty good value, especially in Mardu colors, which are not known for its card draw.
Definitely.
So that's definitely my favorite preview.
I agree. Yeah, being able to add a little bit of card draw to a deck like Mardu Pyromancer or some kind of Aristocrats build with that card is super good.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily need to be put in a deck like Pyromancer, especially just the Aristocrat potential, because besides the only other card that does something similar is Skull Clamp, which obviously is not legal in Modern for the people that haven't played that long. It would be ridiculous, and it certainly wasn't when it was released. However, putting in something on an instant trigger, it's not necessarily going to be as powerful as Skull Clamp, because you have to equip it, and it doesn't go away when you use it. However, on an instant speed card, it's definitely something that's very interesting, and especially at common level, it's very nice. But a lot of other previews so far have been very exciting, especially all the amount of reprints, so far.
Yeah, so you mentioned Miscast earlier. Miscast, something I'm really excited about, is a person that plays Death Shadow and who likes Izzet Control and other builds like that. Being able to pay 1 mana and have them be forced to pay 3, fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Just I'll see how potentially powerful it is. I'm not quite sure how exactly much it's going to shake up the Modern metagame. It's not exactly like Urza entering the Modern meta or Ren and 6, just shaking it up entirely. However, we'll see how it goes. It certainly has a lot of potential, and that I'm excited about,
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the most important thing about this set to me more than over is just the amount of reprints, is the fact of trending of the reprints they're doing, because in the past core sets, 2020, I'm not sure there was any reprint, or core set 20 that is, I'm not sure there was anything potentially a huge reprint from what I remember exactly. It was more a few new cards between Veil Summer and a couple others.
Right, the Veil Summer set that they put out, that was mainly the hype of the set.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily any major reprints in that one. Nothing on the scale of M21.
Right, and in 19 they reprinted what's the reprint? Replaying Lands from the Graveyard, the artifact 3-drop.
Oh yeah, you're talking Crucible of Worlds. Yes,
that was a great reprint for the time.
Tron artifact.
However, I think there was only a couple reprints into 19, and that was the most expensive by far.
Yeah,
so far this set we've had 9 to 10 very, very significant reprints.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these reprints that they're doing so far, and I know we touched upon this a little bit last episode, but I mean, just having things like Grim Tutor and Ugin being reprinted into Standard is just something that's really unprecedented.
Yeah, it's quite fantastic.
Something that you would never see. I mean, and on top of all of that, a lot of these cards that they're coming out with that are new to the set are also just very good.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the power level when you look at these compared to some other core sets in the past, as well as some other regular standard sets. I mean, they're on a whole different level here.
Yeah, absolutely. Even cards just simply as like Liliana's Standard Bearer, which was previewed a couple of days back, as we were just watching one of Seth's streams, Seth Farnell from MTG Goldfish, mentioning that it can go in both standards to mere flash build possibly once Teferi rotates, because it's not going to be playable with something like 3 Fairy in the meta, because I know that's aggravating. However, it also has potential in just aristocrat builds and any other format such as Commander. Putting it in any sort of aristocrat build in black, I know I'm certainly going to enjoy. And even simply cards like Eliminate, I think people are underestimating just how powerful that card's going to be in formats such as Modern, especially Pioneer. It's going to be fantastic.
Definitely in Pioneer.
Although you already have some sort of 2-mana removal for both creatures and planeswalkers as Dreadbore and Rakdos, it is at sorcery speed. It's only playable in Rakdos color, so you can't just play it in a black deck. And realistically, Dreadbore is going to hit most of the planeswalkers you're worried about in Modern, and Eliminate the Venn diagram of what Eliminate and Dreadbore are going to want to hit in Modern are going to be very, very similar. You're going to want to hit your Liliana the Veils. You're going to want to hit the 3 Fairies. You're going to want to hit the Wrenn and 6s. All these cards are going to be the one you're hit. If you're playing against Tron and you're playing black and you can't hit it with Eliminate, there's most likely you're going to be able to take it with a Thoughtseize. And if you're not, well, then you're going to lose anyway. That's how Tron goes.
Right.
But, playing an instant speed 3-mana removal for a Wrenn and 6 on that turn 2 so it can't get going is really, really important.
Really good. Yeah, it's nice that it has the different options to it that you could use. I mean, so it's not always a dead card.
Right. Absolutely.
One of the other cards that I'm interested in playing, mostly in Standard, is a Conclave Mentor.
Oh, yes,
It's basically a Hardened Scales for Selesnya, which is pretty interesting to me. Thinking about different builds that I want to do in Standard with Artifact Synergy to try to add a bunch of counters on and get them to double up.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are very excited for that sort of Selesnya counters deck in Standard upcoming, especially with the Skooz reprint. It's going to be very interesting because not only is it going to be Skooz, it's going to be just great overall.
Right.
I think Skooz was a fantastic reprint. I don't think it needed it necessarily for the price, but it's fine. Otherwise, I'm not going to complain about it.
Not
but
for
the fact
the
that
price.
There's a promo card for it as well is very, very cool, I think.
I also think that it's really good that Wizards is making sure that they give the players good graveyard.
Yeah, especially in this standard.
In this particular standard set, we need a good graveyard hate card, and Scavenging Ooze fills that role. Not only is it just a great creature, but its ability to exile from the graveyard is very, very valuable.
It's not dead.
Yeah.
You can't play Leyline of the Void, even though it's still in Standard, although I believe it should be rotating. It's going to be very interesting, but regardless, the point of the fact is you can't play cards like Leyline of the Void, for example, in Standard, just in your main deck, unless somehow you're playing an Enchantress deck with, say, the Citizen Champion, and even then that's going to be very, very janky.
Mm-hmm.
So playing Skooz as a 2-drop in Standard, it's going to be useful in every single kind of deck.
Right, definitely.
So I think that is a very good reprint in that sense.
Another new card from the set that I'm looking forward to is Karavik, the Spiteful.
Yeah. Would remind me what he does. I can't remember.
He is a 4-mana, 2 generic, 2 black.
Oh, is he the Elish Norn style one?
Yeah, he's got other creatures get -1/-1.
Right.
So this is really good for anything from mana dorks to counteracting go wide strats for black decks, which is really awesome. I think just that ability alone is great. And when you look at it, it says other creatures, so it doesn't affect him at all. Which is great. Yeah,
it's going to be very, very interesting, their card. I'm not sure. I don't know. I can't judge its power level right now, but we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what sort of important 1 power creatures you want to get rid of in Standard currently. Gilded Goose is an 0/2, so it's not going to hit that. I'm trying to think. It's hard to remember what the other... Well, a Cauldron Familiar is a 1-drop, is a 1 toughness creature. However, they want it to die anyway.
Right.
But they won't be able to use their tricky plays with it as much. So I guess that'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be an interesting card to observe. I don't know. I'm sure how that's going to go.
What are your thoughts on Animal Sanctuary?
It's certainly a fun card.
When I saw Animal Sanctuary, I thought to myself, this card is not powerful enough at all. I don't know why they had to make it so underpowered. Who's putting a +1/+1 counter on an Ox?
I think it's more of a meme at this point than anything else.
You know, I think so too.
The only deck I could have considered putting it in that might have been interesting is that the Simic Aggro Snake Commander deck. I don't know if you're aware of the one that Prof.
I am not familiar.
Tularian Community College likes playing a certain deck. It's the commander allows you to pump up other snakes and make them unblockable, and then there's some other interesting things with effect in that deck. But that could be an interesting deck type. The only one where I'd be like, okay, maybe I'm willing to play this card in there. But otherwise, I'm not pumping any Ox. You could put it in a cat kind of deck, maybe in a Pioneer one, for example, and then Dog. I mean, there's not going to be enough support for dogs yet, and then I don't even remember what the other animal types.
Dogs is an interesting tribe. I'm excited to see what kind of support they get in the future. It seems like they built upon cats recently, and now it looks like they're moving on to the dogs next.
Yeah,
maybe goats and oxes will be next after that.
Maybe, although I'm not sure how tempting a ox deck is going to be to play.
Maybe it's an archetype I got to try.
There was, I believe, Yoked Ox in Core 20. That he's pretty strong. He's got a lot of strength.
Pretty ripped.
He's pretty shredded. So maybe I want to play him. 04, I think he was.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there's not a lot of support for that, and I think dogs at this point is more of a cute deck than anything else. But understandably, there's a lot of dog lovers all over the world. There's certainly going to be that Venn diagram of both dog lovers and Magic players that a lot of people are just going to be excited for it. So I'm not going to hate on it. Absolutely not.
Another card I was looking at from the set is Terror of the Peaks. It's the 5-mana dragon, 5/4 with flying. Spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast.
Right. Okay.
And then he says, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target.
Right. It's like the enchantment. I can't remember the name of it that they were talking about. I saw on Twitter that was compared to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's certain. And it's a dragon, correct?
It is a dragon, yes.
Another red dragon. Not a bad card, especially going into that one commander deck for, what is it? Lilith? I can't remember the name of the dragon, but the one from 19. That cares about dragon. Yes, that dragon.
Yeah.
Obviously it can go on any sort of, like, say, the dragon style deck in Commander, but
right.
I mean, it helps that deck out for sure as well.
Yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for just big, beefy dragons. And, when Dracuseth came out, I was really excited about him. And now Terror of the Peaks is the next one that's got my dragon juices flowing. Just something about him I like a lot.
Yeah, dragons are certainly a very, very fun tribe.
Are there any other specific cards that have come out so far that you want to discuss here?
I think the 2-mana sorcery that's in blue, that is a very good Snapcaster target. If it's cast from your grave, it's the 2-mana sorcery where it's essentially a sleight of hand, but you look at 3 cards and put 1 in your hand. But if it's cast from anywhere other than your hand, it allows you to take all 3 cards, is the stipulation on it. I can't remember the name of it exactly, but I know we'll find it and put it up, or we'll figure it out in a second here. But that is going to be a very interesting card to see how that performs in Modern or other formats, because although targeting a sorcery with Snapcaster Mage is not always a very ideal target, if you're targeting it, say, on turn 4 to get a 2/1 out with a Snapcaster and drawing 3 cards, that is very, very powerful, I must say. So,
See the Truth?
See the Truth. See the Truth is the name of the cards. But yeah, so that card's going to have a lot of potential in other formats like Modern with Snapcaster Mage. Or even, as I said before, is it the rare uncommon from Modern Horizons, Collective Conjuring? I can't remember if it was rare or uncommon that does the same thing as Collective Company, but a lot worse. That could be interesting to see, if you want to grab some sort of Cascade card, or maybe grab any sort of other powerful card that's in Is It Colors that's a 3-drop, or maybe you're playing Jeskai or something else. And then, like, maybe if you play in Grixis, you can grab a Coloring This command, and then you grab that card, draw 3, make them discard, do 2 to any target for 4 mana. That's not a bad deal. It's not great still. Collective Company is still much better, in my opinion. However, it could be interesting to see. We'll see how it goes. But that's one I think that's going to be interesting to see. Do you have any other suggestions as far as cards that'll be interesting to see their potential?
Nothing yet specifically other than what we've mentioned already. Mostly I'm just excited for Scavenging Ooze and for Ugin to be in the set. But of course, we're not finished with spoilers yet, so we still have some more interesting cards to look forward to, I'm sure.
That's very true. 3 days ago, I said, I think we might be done with all the interesting cards as far as reprints or power goes, because usually as far as preview season goes with Wizards, the first week or few days, 5 to 7 days is very, very interesting. But after that, it kind of tails off, and then they get to that last preview day with all the commons that are mostly garbage. So, but I was proven wrong, and Scooz is definitely a good reprint. So yeah, this set is very exciting, and I think a box might be in our future.
All right, so the next topic that we want to discuss is a couple days ago, Wizards of the Coast banned some cards in all formats for being racially insensitive, be it from their artwork, their titles, or what the cards do. Obviously, with everything going on right now in our political climate and everything happening, a lot more companies are making sure that they are not contributing to the racism that floods our country. So some of the cards that were banned include Invoke Prejudice, which is a card that has very racist inspired artwork. I mean, the artwork basically depicts Ku Klux Klan members holding an axe. I mean, there's really nothing excusable.
No, absolutely.
about the artwork on that card. Some of the other cards that were banned include Crusade, Jihad, Cleanse, Stone Throwing Devils, Pretish Gypsies, and Imprison. So it's kind of a bit of a sensitive topic, but in my opinion, I think Wizards of the Coast certainly did the right thing here. I don't see any kind of incorrect choice for the cards that they chose to ban. Each one I can understand the reasoning behind it. And with everything going on, we don't want Magic the Gathering to be tied to any kind of racism or something negative like that. This game is supposed to be somewhere where players can come together and enjoy themselves. And, even though these cards are old and, in my opinion, I would say none of them see play.
Absolutely. I've never seen
none that I can think of. The only one that I've seen get played is Crusade, and Commander. Beyond that, none of these are really played in any format that I know of. I've certainly never come across them, really. So there's no reason not to just go ahead and give them the axe and, say, hey, these obviously have some problems with them and they can go.
Right. I think it was definitely the right move to get rid of them, and kudos to other websites like Scryfall for putting up that wall in front of them to make sure of any sorts of sensitivity that you can't just look up the card and find it, but you have to go through another barrier to research about them.
Right.
But yeah, I hope that Wizards also continues with this sort of, promotion of diversity in the future, but not just starting and stopping at this. I think they need to look into making sure that their company is promoting all sorts of diverse hirings and making sure that their artistry is, they're looking towards all sorts of groups for their artwork for their cards. I think there was a couple I think I saw in this set that looked like they were not just done by some white artists, which is a good turn of trend. I think in the past, the number was thrown around, only 3 previous black artists have been used for card arts in the past, which as far as a 27-year game has gone was a very low number. And I think that hopefully in the future here, they can put their money where their mouth is and make some donations to some other contributable funds, such as the NAACP or Reclaim the Block or anything else, to show that they're actually, supporting these groups, and as well as, just making sure that they can cover their own side of things. I think is hopefully the way to go from this.
All right. So that was just a really important thing that just happened recently involving Magic that we just wanted to touch upon. It's a sensitive subject, but it's something that you should talk about. I mean, it's the game going in a better direction.
Absolutely.
So
Magic's has been a safe haven for people for years and should continue to be that way. It should never promote excluding any sort of person, and never should.
Exactly. So the next topic that we're going to talk about here is the modern meta and what it's looking like right now. Recently there were bannings or not bannings, nerfing of the companion cards. And we're kind of take a look and see what the modern meta is looking like after some of those changes.
Right. So I'll just list off from numbers 12 to 1, based upon MTG Goldfish's metagame listings for Modern, just to see what they're saying is currently being played the most on, say, MTGO tournaments, whatnot. So at number 12, we have Mono Green Tron. At number 11, we have we have Mono Red Blitz. Number 10, we have Simic Amulet Titan. Number 9, we have Dredge. Number 8, we have what they say is Simic Reclamation, but if you do a little bit of research, you'll understand that the deck they show does not have Wilderness Reclamation played in it, but I understand that some variations might play a couple of copies of Wilderness Reclamation.
Mm-hmm.
However, the deck type is essentially 4-color Sultai Snow Control, which basically it is. Then above that is, again, another version with Uro of Bant Snow Control or 4-color. And then at number 6, we have Gifts Storm, which is kind of interesting because you haven't seen Storm this high in the meta in quite a while.
Yeah,
Number
definitely.
5, we have Burn. We have number 4, we have Humans. Number 3, we have Eldrazi Tron. Number 2, we have Gruul Midrange, which I think is very refreshing. And then number 1, which is a surprise to many, I believe, is Erosa, which, hopefully that falls down a while here because it is currently at 11.06% of the meta, which is quite a bit more than I think most decks. I believe that the top deck normally in the past few years has fallen around 8% of the meta.
8% generally max. I mean, a lot of the time, the top deck in a meta is usually around 6%.
Right, which is what Gruul Midrange currently is.
We're seeing Erosa obviously at the top. Gruul Midrange is refreshing to see. A deck that, kind of didn't come out of nowhere. It's been played for a while, but it's nice to see just a refreshing new face at the top of that list.
Right.
Decks like Eldrazi Tron and Burn, they've been in the top spots for a long time. Burn probably always will be.
It never will go away. Some variation will always be there.
Can't go wrong with just damage to face. I mean, at the end of the day, whether they get rid of Loris or they introduce new cards, I mean, Lightning Bolt and Lava Spike are always going to be very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Humans up there again is a little bit interesting. It's in the number 4 spot currently. Humans for a while there was down in between, I think, the 30 and 15 spot, maybe a little bit higher. It's been floating around that area just because, it couldn't compete with the life gain of some decks like Erosa. And then, when you're seeing, I think Azorius Control is top of the meta, that, you can't deal that well with board wipes all the time, even though it's got cards like Meddling Mage. But I think now that the decks like Burn and Tron and Humans, because they're so consistent and their deck types are just, they try to do the same thing with most of their cards. Tron, play out big creatures or big spells. Humans, play out a lot of good synergy creatures and just smack you to face. Burn, use spells to cast quite toward your face. Once a meta kind of circumvents and then, refreshes itself, such as we've seen from the banning of Faithless Looting, then now we're seeing how Companions took over the meta for a while. I think the all top 12 decks in Modern, 10 of them must have been playing Companions, if not more. Now that with the rule change and the 3 mana sorcery generic paying kind of makes them inefficient to play in Modern. Now that meta has shifted and we haven't figured out the new meta essentially yet, decks like Mono Green Tron, Burn, and Humans will jump up there again because people know that they'll always do some well. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you always see certain types of decks always kind of crop up once the meta gets shaken up by something like a nerf or a ban. Things like, like you said, Burn, Humans, Eldrazi Tron. I mean, these are decks that are just staples of the game at this point. It's not they're not decks that necessarily rise and fall with the tide of what comes out and what gets banned. They have enough support for themselves already that they're always going to be something reliable to play.
Absolutely. And although you don't see necessarily an Azorius Control list in the top 12 right now, there are 2 different Snow Control lists in the meta currently that are performing well, which we'll see how long that goes for. I'm not sure how long, if decks like Bant Snow and then Erosa are going to stay around. if they're staying at 11 to 12% of the meta. I'm not sure how long Harkham's Astrolabe is going to be able to remain if this keep the trend. It's going to be interesting to see, because not only is it maybe a little bit too powerful than any of the decks currently, a lot of what people don't enjoy in Magic is, an anti-variety per se. People don't like seeing the same deck over and over again. A big reason probably why Companions were gone, because diversity is very important in Magic in all sorts of facets, right? Especially deck types and archetypes being played.
Yeah, it's certainly not always about a card being overpowered. A lot of the times when a card goes, it's simply just to diversify the meta up a little bit and allow players a chance to face against something different. Than the same old, same exact cards always dominating is boring for everybody.
Although if they don't ban it, it would be interesting to see an unbanning of Faithless Looting. I know that we talk about it maybe a bit too much because we may be somewhat salty, as some people describe.
Faithless Looting is one of my favorite cards, as you guys heard yesterday or last podcast. Yeah, it's a nice, interesting meta that we have going on here. It's sad to see that Death Shadow's nowhere to be seen, but cards like Dredge and stuff, they're getting up there. So
yeah, Dredge is certainly very powerful right now. It's the typical graveyard deck that sticks around the meta. There's usually always one style of graveyard deck in the meta. That's the one that's kind of hanging around currently. We've seen the power of Dredge for a while now, putting out so much power on turn 3 or 4. You just can't fight it, especially with the recursiveness of it is crazy. I don't know, if they unbanned Faithless Looting, how much more powerful would Arclight Phoenix be than, say, your Rosa right now? I'm not sure.
Well, considering a little bit of graveyard hate takes care of Arclight Phoenix, I'd say it wouldn't be quite as powerful. But then again, I guess Faithless Looting was banned for a reason.
That is true. I just... all these SKUs and with, Leyline of the Void and even Ravenous Trap. I don't think enough people to utilize Ravenous Trap efficiently because you're putting so many cards in the bin. Just Ravenous Trapping, you can do it for free at any time. It's not necessarily, and then you play SKUs on turn 2, and then they get Arclight, it's their turn 3 play, and then they have Arclight Phoenixes on the board because you're not able to utilize that open green mana. I understand that thing, but, Ravenous Trap, they just have to put 3 cards in the bin, is it, I believe? Just only 3? I believe it is. So, I think that there's enough graveyard hate at this point, especially with also Cling to Dust. And then there's so much stuff that's just underutilized. I believe that you could efficiently fight it. But I understand that it could be a little bit too powerful. Now there's only been a year and a half, I think, since the banning. Maybe a year.
Close to that, yeah.
They may not want to just be like a year now gone by. Let's unban it. Look how long it took for them to unban Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, unbannings are something that they don't take lightly. No. Something that does not happen very often. When it does, it's usually very significant for the meta and what happens in the future. So beyond the meta, modern meta that we talked about here, the last thing that we want to discuss was the new commander rule change involving commander death triggers. So the new rule that they've added here says if a commander has an ability which triggers on it dying or going to exile, it will trigger before heading to the command zone. So this is really important for certain commanders that have their triggers on when they die. Beforehand, it was if you chose to you either had to choose to let your commander go to exile or to the graveyard or return to the command zone. And obviously, 9 times out of 10, when your commander dies, you choose to return him to the command zone. It just seems to be how it works. So it really made it basically pointless almost to play some of these commanders that had their death triggers. So this is just a nice change, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's very good for commanders such as Child of Alara or say Alana the Dusk Rose, because why would you want to play that card and then risk, I have to try to, zombify it or, basically try to reanimate it instead of just, put it back to the command zone after it gets power up. But I'm not sure if you saw that the rule changes with Rune or not exactly. So how it changes with Rune is, for all the people that don't know, is beforehand, if you were playing against Rune, which is, if you're unfamiliar, is the Bank Commander, which similar to Brago is a blink archetype switch. You pay it to tap it down, it blinks, and I believe any permanent or any non-creature permanent. Or whatever it is. I believe it's non-land permanent. It'll blink it, return to the end step. But how this works now is before it was if they chose to blink your commander, how it would work is you could choose to put it in the command zone, but how the trigger would work, it could come back on the battlefield anyway. But now it's very interesting because if you choose to blink an opponent's commander with Rune, instead of that happening, how it'll work is it'll go to exile. And then it will not necessarily come back to the battlefield after that. They can choose to use some sort of effect like Sundial of the Infinite, I believe the card is, or Disallow, where they can stop that triggered ability, and then your commander will remain in exile for the rest of the game. So, they pay the 2 mana, tap down and to blink the commander. You can choose, if you don't put in the command zone, it goes to exile because it obviously, like blink effects, it goes to exile and then it comes back eventually. Play Disallow or Void Slime or a card such as that will either end the turn immediately or cancel a triggered ability, and then you will not get your commander back for the rest of the game, which is a little bit unfortunate for Voltron commanders or commanders that are like especially important to the deck itself. Some other decks, it's not going to be hurt too much because say you play Animar, Soul the Elements, you're just trying to play a bunch of creatures and just make it very big, or if but however, if you're playing say that one Bant Voltron commander that wants to swing in a lot, or any other sort of commander like similar to that, it's gonna hurt your deck in a significant way, and you won't be able to play it the way you want to anymore, which I think is a little unfortunate.
Right. Yeah. So I think this ruling change is just great for the health of the format and allowing players to play some of these more diverse commanders that ordinarily wouldn't have too much function in the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if you look at some commanders that are already quite popular, like Omnath, Locus of Rage, or Pashlik Mons, I mean, not all the time you're going to have a specific elemental die, or a goblin, or, it was always unfortunate when your commander would go to die and their ability doesn't trigger with it, so you can't get that 3 damage off from Omnath.
Right. That could be a very boring in the swing of the game. So it is just a nice, quality of life change in that sense as well.
Yeah. All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there, guys. I want to thank you all for watching, listening, and I hope you enjoyed this one.
Make sure to tip your valets and have a nice night.